Hello and welcome to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past and talk about their impact and relevance today. I'm Tim Longo Jr., and I'm joined as always by a man who wishes he had a rewind feature in real life as well as in Megaman X.
Brett Duville. I could have a rewind to Megaman X. Unfortunately...
Oh yeah, you have a story about this.
I have a story about that, yeah. So I was using it in Mega Man 2, which I did not finish, as you suggested I may not. But I was using it, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I actually already had the Mega Man X collection. I think it must have been part of PlayStation Plus at some point. Or maybe I bought it a couple of weeks ago at the same time as the other one. I just don't remember. That's also possible. My memory for those sorts of things is going. Anyway, so I have the SNES Classic, and it has Mega Man X on it. I'm like, okay, cool. So when I went and sat down to play that, I can use the rewind feature. Awesome. I plugged it into my TV, and then I plugged it into the wall. And between those two things, I now have to sit on a corner of my couch with the thing stretched out almost all the way to be able to hold the controller in my hand to sit on my couch in my living room and play this game, which is just not comfortable. And it means anytime I want to rewind, I have to touch the device, the physical.
Oh, the rewind is on
rewind is the
console?
Reset. Is the reset thing.
Oh, yuck.
So there's like power, the power switch is the left one and the reset switch is the right one. And if you hit the reset switch, it gives you the controls, like the front end basically, and you can save, there's 4 save states and you can do whatever there. So you have to physically handle the device, which for me now is extremely painful because I've got to reach over, lean, with my wonderful back, and stretch out my arm to get to. I can't do it with my foot because the thing's too light. So I actually have to use a hand, both hands actually, one to hold it, one to flip it. So I ended up I did it for a little while, and then I was like, yeah, this is never going to work. I had already beaten the intro section, which we'll talk about. So I had that password, and I hadn't beat any other levels. So I just went to the PlayStation 1 and put in that code and started from there. And it worked, yeah. Because it's just a numeric code. All of the emulated stuff is still there. So no rewind and no save states. The question is, there is, however, a rookie mode. I don't know if you have.
I did turn that on actually at one point. I was like, I'm probably just gonna turn this on. I don't know what does it do. I don't remember if I noticed.
It makes less damage.
Yeah,
you take less damage from every shot.
I figured. Yeah,
and honestly, they could have turned it way down. Like, in fact, they should just make it a slider instead of an on-off. It should just be a slider.
Yeah,
like 0 to 100%. Like. What? Just make people make them let it be as easy as they want. Just turn it all the way down.
I mean, that's Celeste, right?
We want to see that. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's like they clearly just injected a number there, right? So it's like, I think. Yeah. Well, that's maybe not true because it's probably all integer based. So there's probably no floating point. Maybe it's not that trivial, but it feels like it should be that trivial.
Well, this is the Dark Souls debate too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, that's like the main. Not that this episode's about the SNES Classic, but wasn't that the main complaint about that system? Was the length of that?
All the cables are
cable. Yeah, it's like for small people who are sitting on the floor in front of their TV or something weird. Yeah, I didn't know you had
2 foot or 3 foot power cable. It's like a USB cable.
So you could get a longer one technically, but yeah,
but I mean, I'd have to think of that before I was sitting down to play. I wonder, actually, maybe next time I'll try like powering it from my laptop and just put my laptop in a place.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? That's some nonsense there.
That's some MacGyver stuff right there. I think that might work. I'll have to try it. It didn't occur to me this morning that I was like, oh yeah, I could. I mean, I used like a regular USB, like an iPhone one or something from the day.
To plug it into the wall.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, Yeah, so I'm playing on Switch as I did for Mega Man 2, and I'm playing in bed on handheld. And it's nice because for the podcast I usually can't do that, right? Because we're not playing games on portable stuff like that usually. So it's kind of a nice luxury, but without rewind and on the handheld version of Switch, this game is not. It's not good, not built for it, and especially once I got the dash ability, which is like, it's really like a D-pad. I think it's really was designed for the D-pad in a lot of ways, right? So I didn't get as far as we're supposed to for today, but I did at least fight 3 bosses.
I think it's also on a button, right? I think it's on B.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
I think it's both.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, I'll try that. That could be. When you get into the mech suit, I know that's the case, so maybe it must be for... I thought I pressed everything. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll try it out.
You do need it for the mech suit to get out of the mech suit as well. But I'll look it up while we're...
But anyway, so I'm gonna actually switch to... Even though we're, who knows how far we're going to get into this one, I'm going to switch to docked mode with the Pro controller because I think I'll have a much easier time. But anyway, we're playing Mega Man X. We were doing 2 episodes per game. Neither of us completely finished 2, but we did get close. But I think we got the basics of it.
It's the A button, not the B button. To jump is the B button, and the A button. I always get those mixed up because Microsoft had to forge their own path.
Yeah.
And that's the controller. If I'm not using a PlayStation controller, I'm most likely using an Xbox controller. So, because it maps.
So it is on the farthest right button as a dash.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't notice that. So that might help because I think that's useful. I think it might be. I think the dash also have iframes going on? I feel like I dashed through something at one point and didn't take damage, but maybe that was my imagination. Maybe I wanted that to be the case, but I don't think that was the case.
It's possible you took very little damage if you had the training mode on.
Maybe so.
There are definitely times where you take less than a bubble in the training mode. So it's possible.
I think so. Yeah, that must have been it.
Although visually, you should have still seen the character
flash.
Respond.
Yeah, I think that was the case. So 93 is when this one came out on the SNES, which ironically Mega Man 6 came out the same year. In fact, the month before on the NES, which is not very common, but to have the same franchise and then like the next gen, quote unquote next gen sequel coming out almost the same time. But this was a console generation of weird. The Genesis was coming out as well, and so it was definitely a weird time when that transition. We talked about it probably with God of War, as people may remember. God of War was a very late PlayStation 2 game, as the next gens were coming out. So, but install base matters, and so I'm sure Mega Man 6 still did really well. So some other touchstones I'll just throw out. We're not going to spend a lot of time on history here. 93 wise, no, I don't think. Oh, Myst we played. Sam and Max Hit the Road we did not play, but I'm mentioning it from LucasArts perspective. We have Doom 1, which and then let's see,
which we played,
and then I'm going to mention X-Wing. We played TIE Fighter, but X-Wing came out this year. Link's Awakening, which we didn't play, but that's the Zelda game around that time to give you a sense of it. Day of the Tentacle we played, which came out the same year as Sam and Max Hit the Road. Huh? Is that true?
Yeah, probably on either side of the year, maybe.
Yeah,
they used to crank them out pretty.
It is. Yeah, June and November. So anyway, just to give you a little bit of touchstones for what was coming out, The Seventh Guest, which everyone will remember Bill Gates' famous quote about that.
Nope. God, I don't have it.
The new standard in interactive entertainment, says Bill Gates.
The new standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I remember
FMV.
that.
That's what he meant. FMV is
Okay,
like,
yeah.
it's going strong.
I mean, and I'm glad that we've had these, nearly 30 years, or nearly 20 years, rather. No, nearly 30 years of FMV games.
Yeah.
We really built on that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was really delivered.
So anyway, so this is 16-bit. We go from 18 or 8 to 16-bit with this game, which definitely obviously shows right away as we start playing. Trying to see if there's anything else to mention about the year that's worthwhile. Really not. There's some significant arcade stuff, but anyway, 1993. That puts you in the headspace.
The thing that I most appreciated in the 16-bit transition here is how much more character and sort of animation frames there are for different enemies and things like that. Like I think my favorite in the intro section, to pick on that because it's something we've both played and could comment on, is there's these dudes in the red cars.
Yeah.
And if you jump over them, which is how I tended to, because I keep forgetting there's a charge, and I think you can probably destroy them quickly with a charge weapon. But I would jump over them and then turn back and start shooting at them. But they, like, as you jump over their head, they, like, turn to look at you, passing over,
Yeah.
And then they're looking back, and then they kind of turn the car around kind of on a dime. That particular transition isn't amazing, but it's just really neat to see that, like, red eye, of whatever these robots, these Maverick robots, like, turn and face face you, and and it's I don't know, it's probably 3 frames for the head to turn, but it's like, it's all you actually need. Like, compared to playing Mega Man, it's like this huge, or Mega Man 2, it's just huge step forward in terms of what that enemy can do. There's a number of things like that. I mean, there's some enemies that sort of like spin and roll, and then they'll turn on their side when you're about to kill them, or there are the robots that roll forward and then stand up on their 2 spindly legs that you have to kind of jump to shoot them the part that's the ball. Like, there's just a lot of transitional animation in all of this that just wasn't really possible. That just wasn't the memory for in the earlier console. And the music is certainly a lot richer, as well, on the 16-bit machine. You have any favorite things to mention about the music?
No, I mean, I'm not. We always talk about how we need to talk about music more, and not qualified to talk about any depth there. But I agree with you that I think it is about depth for me, right? It's just, I guess there's just more memory and more, more bits to use, and so it just felt like more fleshed out, right? Yeah, twice as many, just more fleshed out, right, and more like memorable. And, they still use the theme in a couple places, but one, not music, but sound effect that I'll call out is when you die, right? It's like, it still felt like the same kind of telltale Mega Man death, but it was obviously 16-bit, so it had more depth to it and more going on, but you still had that nostalgic moment. So not music per se, but I think, every theme was just, richer, like you said, which I think is well said. So, and then the other one I want to...
There's more voices, right? Basically, right, than you had on the...
Yeah, even the intro, right? It doesn't actually say Mega Man X or something.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So it's like, that's like blows your mind at those days, right? Like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, it's no Sinistar, but
that's fair. That's fair. But also from the 16-bit perspective, I think the environments are very cool and well arted, and they have depth as well. And you have the sort of the parallaxing going on, and it also allowed, as a bit of a segue, it allowed them to go deeper into your choice space, because there's more movement mechanics that you have, wall jumping, and it's not even well, actually you can do this in Metroid. I think there's a way to do it. It's not just the wall jump back and forth between 2 walls. You can actually wall jump on the same wall, which is super cool, and was a trope-ish thing for a little while too. I think there's a way to do that if you're good at it in Metroid. I think that's a speedrunner thing.
In Super Metroid.
In Super Metroid, I mean, yeah, but in this one, like they fully embrace it. Like there's places you have to.
I was terrible at it, so I could not do it consistently.
In this game?
No. In Super.
Oh, in Super Metroid, no, it's very hard. Yeah, it's very like the timing of it. Oh, yeah, that's right. There's that one section. Okay, I'm remembering now when we played it. There's a one section.
It was the worst. I had to buy a second controller because.
Oh, that's right. There's a whole story. Go back and listen. Yeah, plug for our Super Metroid series.
Our Super Metroid series.
If you want to hear about his controller exploits. But yeah. So much easier to do in this one, and as I was just saying. Designed into the level design where you actually need to use it at certain points to get over, a wall or something like that sometimes. So it allowed them to go deeper. I mean, game design was evolving too, so they're adding stuff to compete with, probably the Marios of the world or whatever, the Metroids of the world and Castlevanias of the world and stuff. So, so you can see that, but I was just nice to go back to back from 2 to this and just have kind of more fleshed out in general. But yeah, beautiful game. I mean, this, you saw the sort of iconic silhouettes and shapes of Mega Man in 2, but here you really, like you said, start seeing the manga and anime influences even more so, right? It's not just the box cover art, it's actually now in the game and really cool. Even like when you get like upgraded, right? The armor changes that you have are more prominent.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like that he just seems a little more heroically posed because he's a little taller, right? I mean, it just ends up, you can just do more with the silhouette then, right? And they really make use of that. I mean, his legs feel quite long, right? To me, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually part of a basis of sort of, what looks more heroic in comparison. So, typically, like if you were doing comics, it would be like somebody heroic is like, I don't know, eight heads tall or something like that. There's like you take the head and you like lay it out across the body, and there's like different proportions for like realistic versus heroic or whatever. I didn't go and try to figure out how many heads tall he was, but he feels like he's pushing more in that direction, much more than in the NES original series. And of course, he's a different Mega Man. We should point out he is not the same Mega Man, which is another thing actually I didn't know about this series. And we can talk about this.
Yeah, I'm not really clear on it either, to be honest.
Okay, so I read the manual.
Oh, it says it in the manual. Okay, I did not read the manual.
Yes, last time we said, well, we never read the manual, and this time I was like, you know what I could do? I could read the manual, and I will. So basically, we are further in the future,
right? And Dr. Light's dead, and there's a little
Dr.
bit
Light
of
is dead.
text scroll, right? About
there's a text scroll at the beginning, and this doctor, I think it's Dr. Kane, is basically an archaeologist who has discovered.
No, I love that you're doing this.
Yep, this is me. He has discovered this capsule in the ruins of the lab of Dr. T. Light.
Thomas.
And Tom, okay. T was enough for me. That's all I needed. So Dr. Kane discovers this capsule in the ruins and finds Mega Man X inside. This is presented as a series of like journal entries with dates, like, February 12th, this happened, February 15th.
Oh, neat.
Happened, and it's just like excerpts of his ruins. And then it explains how he copied this robot X, the technology that's in Mega Man X, to make the Reploids.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wiki now. It's Reploids. Yep.
Reploids. So replicant droids, which are the Maverick robots that you were in fact fighting.
The irregulars in Japan.
Yeah. And
wow.
Then, of course, the big bad is Sigma.
This is like Halo.
Is like
lore.
is a near complete copy of X. who has taken control of the Reploids. And of course, we also run into this character who I think is Zero, which is the red.
Yeah, the other I had a note about that. Who is that? We'll keep talking.
Yeah, kind of coded as female because of the long hair, but it's not really clear. I don't know. It could just be anime hair.
What?
And Zero, I think it's Zero. But I was going to say that hair that long seems like a liability when you fly with like fire coming out of your feet. I don't know. It just seems to me like a long hairdo would be a poor lifestyle choice. But yeah, there's an awful lot of
not
story.
if you're a badass.
Okay, well, I'm not. Fine, I guess. And I still keep my hair short just to give me a chance. There's just a lot of story and backstory in this one, and
yes, it's Zero.
Feels like it is Zero. Okay, yeah. and it feels like it's trying to motivate each of the locations kind of as biomes that these main Reploids that are the bosses have taken over. So they're each kind of distinct in a way that, I mean, there were distinct looks to each of the NES ones, but they were not distinctly anything in particular. There was like, oh, this is this kind of weird techno thing, and this is this kind of weird techno thing, and there's a little bit of that here, but there's more like, oh, you're going to be in the snow versus the underwater versus the forest versus etc. And there's more of that here, and it feels more like like designing to cover a number of biomes that would exist on this planet in order to sort of take regions of it over on Earth. I guess it's Earth. I'm assuming it's Earth. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a lot more than I thought there would have been. Yeah, Zero, also created by Inafune. They do identify as he, and so
the hair is down past his butt. So
yeah, a lot of hair, and then of course there is a Mega Man Zero series. That's.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's true. I forgot about
3 at least, it looks like, maybe. But yeah, so yeah, he has his own. Oh, 4. Yeah, he has his own series, which looks like maybe the Zero stuff was more on the Game Boy. Which yeah, so.
Interesting.
Oh, first release on Game Boy Advanced. Yeah, so Advance. Anyway, yeah, so a new pro, sort of.
Well, you're gonna have to play all of them to investigate them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and start from the beginning and really get into what's happening.
Otherwise, I don't know how you'll understand it if you don't do that.
Oh well, we forgot to talk about the end of 2, which you did watch the video, but we have a very Ronin robot, sentient robot is now on his own, walking the land from season to season. As like a Ronin samurai, making choices like robots aren't supposed to do, living life. It's implied that he puts his helmet down, like there's a shot right where his helmet's like on the ground, and it's implied sort of like
puts his helmet down forever.
He's settled down in some village or something. But then even before that, there's this weird moment where I
assume he becomes a carpenter because he's got the saw. And
nice there, perfect. Yep. Well, he can do all sorts of jobs. Yeah. Very Pinocchio, like you mentioned in pre-show. Like becomes a real boy. But and then there. Sorry to backtrack a little bit on this, but to hit it because I wanted to mention the very right before the credits stuff that we just talked about happens. There's the third phase of Wily is he transforms into an alien and he's flying through space and you're fighting him in space. And then when you take him out, it's sort of like a hologram maybe like is revealed and you're in this like danger room style thing and he's like at a console and he pounds his fists on the ground, and so it's sort of implied that it was all like, well, at least that last phase was like an illusion or something. So it's unclear, but we know that the whole theme of Mega Man is that they're sort of like testing, and especially in Mega Man X, they're testing out this technology, right, to see if he's. In fact, I think in the text crawl they kind of mention it, right, where he needs to be tested to make sure that the first rule of robotics isn't violated or whatever. So
Right.
yeah,
Even
so,
though he can think and feel and make his own decisions.
yeah, they don't really they're not consistent on that whole thing.
Yeah.
They're like, do you want him to have choice or do you not? Right? This can clearly Mega Man could take down some humans. So anyway, yeah.
You know, I wonder. I wonder if the Mega Man 2 ending is like a Metroid response. Like, oh, you've got your surprise ending where, you know, Samus is a woman.
Yeah.
Like, get a load of this. Our robot's gonna go live with people.
Yeah. Live on. Yeah. I just, that season where he's just walking and the seasons are changing.
Yeah,
it's just so melodramatic, and I just loved it. It was just so, like, good for you. That's a strong choice for an end of this arcade game. You know, this arcadey robot game. So, because there really wasn't much precedent the rest of the game for it. So,
no, not at all. Like, I mean, there's very little precedent for really any story. Like, I mean, it's, you know, yeah. I'm not entirely clear on what I guess you're up against Wily's robots. I guess that's the kind of setup, but I didn't really dig into that. I didn't go back and find I did go back and find the manual, but I basically kind of quickly flipped to what was obviously visible because I think I did it on the cast. And this time I actually went and read and was like, oh my God, there's like 6 pages of lore. Tim would be so excited. It's also weird. There's a few other things that are pretty interesting about the manual. One of the first thing that's in it is like this earnest letter from a senior VP at Capcom about like the new Mega Man game that they've put in your hands, and you know how they really hope you'll enjoy it. You know, it's just it's an entirely different time. Yeah, it's just very.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's part of like the earnestness of the. I mean, you still see this in like Nintendo's presentations today. Like it's like Iwata. Before, Iwata was that way, but even the new guy, it's like, you know, before they show you something, it's like they say, we're pleased to present to you this whatever now, you know, and they'll bow maybe or whatever. So it's kind of curiously formal and also like earnest, you know, and I don't know, it's definitely a whole tone that you see in Japanese presentations that you don't see in American ones or Western ones, I should say. You know, it's a far cry from, you know, Aisha Tyler and her lady boners or whatever. You know, it's just a very different sort of feel.
Yep.
So,
yep.
It's totally different. Anyway, so
it speaks to the era.
Yeah, for sure. The themes, you know, you had mentioned, since we're talking a little bit about the Ronin walking away, the Ronin robot walking away and going and living amongst the people. You know, do you want to sort of touch on, you know, where you see this one going?
Well, yeah, I mean, like we said, they start with this concept of, I mean, it's just it caught me off guard when when X started, because they did have so much of that text up front, kind of trying to set it up, and the fact that they even mentioned one of the rules of robotics, that's Asimov, right?
Yes, that's
in this game is like, what? You know, I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of a kid playing this game. Then of like, whoa, yeah, of course you don't want the robot to kill humans. You know, who probably hasn't potentially read Asimov or whatever. And so I never remembered that theme was so, because we went from 2 to this, skipped a bunch, and the theme is still there. So clearly it's a thing for them. It's like, oh yeah, Mega Man's a robot, and like, it's, you know, you're fighting robots and robots. And so the fact that they're really, like, I guess, leaning into it, and here, I don't know where it's gonna go here, but
it's also it's robots versus like animal robots.
Yeah, right.
It's
right.
really the precursor of Solid Snake, in my opinion.
So funny enough, but obviously, let me read the boss list here. I have it up already. Flame Mammoth, Sting Chameleon, Storm Eagle, Armored Armadillo, Spark Mandrill, Boomer Kuanga, Launch
I don't know what
Octopus,
is. Yeah.
and Chill Penguin. those are Metal Gear names.
They're the most Metal Gear names.
So Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear was 87. Metal Gear 2 was 89, I think. And so I did look it up ahead of time because I was like, where's this? Or maybe it's just, it's just, again, manga and anime influence. And of course, Metal Gear highly influenced by other things as well. But I don't know, just a little on the nose because it's like, so they went away from Heatman or Woodman, right? They're now shifting the way that they name the bosses, which I did not know.
Kuwanger is it is based on the stag beetle, which is Kuwagata in Japanese. So
it's a beetle.
He's a beetle.
Neat.
Which makes a little sense now looking at him. He's definitely got that. He's got those spiky, like a stag beetle has the spiky helmet, and then his limbs are long and gangly in the art, in the key art.
I see that.
It's very funny. Yeah. You didn't read them in the order that they were in the manual, which is how I started tackling them. It starts with Chill Penguin, left to right, top to bottom. Chill Penguin, Spark Mandrill, then Launch Octopus. So that was the order in which I tackled the bosses. Although I was not able to beat Launch Octopus, so I switched to Flame Mammoth. And I wasn't able to beat that either. But I got pretty close. But I was thinking, oh, well, I've got this ice thing now. I should go to
that makes sense.
Fire. Maybe that'll work. It didn't really, but I'm also not. I'm not particularly good at the game. So
no, I'm not great either. I did, full disclosure, look after. So I played. I played 3 of the bosses as well. I attempted Chill Penguin, Spark Mandrill. Not in this order. I think I first started with Spark Mandrill, then I tried Launch Octopus, and then I caved and I looked up the right order because I was like, this is hard, no rewind. I don't think I'm going to be able to do get far. So I was like, I better get some advantage. So Chill Penguin is the first one to fight. So that's what I did. I almost beat him a couple times. So I think if I can get my situation better with the D-pad, I should be fine. Because I definitely have mastered the wall jump thing.
Yeah, the key is the wall climb up into the corner.
Yeah. And that's what I was doing.
Yeah. But you just got to avoid his ice, whatever, because you get frozen. That's just
yeah. So I have the rhythm. It's just execution. So, And if I can dash on a button, that might help too. So, but I'll get him, and then hopefully that'll give me the edge to use the right damages on the right ones. But I've enjoyed the levels, like in Chill Penguin, because obviously I played that multiple times. Like the mech suit is cool. Like I've surprising moment of like, whoa, I get to get inside of a mech suit, and fight with it, and the the bunny rabbit, the ostrich, it's like very clever riffs off of, they have some. Like if there's the one enemy, I think it was on Spark Mandrill's level, where they're flying and then they have the trash compactor, kind of like not trash compactor, but like the crusher on a chain that comes down.
Yeah. That's actually in the intro section.
Okay, that's in the intro section, right? Yeah. But like those were static versions of that in 2, and so that they're not necessarily just recycling, but they have themes where, like in Castlevania or Metroid, right, where you're like, oh, it's that kind of, so that you want to have some of those repeat some of those, at least like overall designs of enemies. So when you're playing a sequel, you have a sense of like, oh yeah, this is that franchise. So I think they did a good job at some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually part of a level element as well, something like that in Flame Mammoth, I believe. And I think there's a definite. There's definitely a reflection in that sort of level design that the robots have taken over, and these are robot things. Like they need to crush down so they can recycle the metal or whatever. I guess when robots are or down.
So what you're saying is Mega Man's major influence for Terminator.
I was thinking The Matrix, but sure, also Terminator.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Basically the same thing. I mean, basically the same thing.
But to your point on the level, on the level features of those, the one small moment that blew my mind with that opening section with those smasher things is they were smashing through the level geometry at times.
Yeah.
And then if you didn't kill them fast enough, they would actually create a hole. I mean, for me,
destructible environment.
That's kind of like a mind. That blows my mind that was in there.
So it's pretty amazing.
That's pretty neat stuff. So
I assume you could actually. I'm thinking there are pairs of them at times so it's like you could actually destroy the world enough that you couldn't continue.
Oh yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
So it lends a sense of urgency, which. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's the introductory area, so I don't know how I feel about.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
that possible.
You might be able to
not.
Maybe you could just make the wall, because you can do that. The wall jump on edges too. So
that's true. Maybe you can just get there.
But that's a good point. I mean, even if it's not true, the sense of urgency is implied. But yeah. So I don't know. I feel like. I think it is a good exercise for us to play from 2 to X, because we can see so clearly the leap, right? Because we didn't play 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. So
wait a minute, I thought that was the homework.
Oh yeah. In fact,
what do you think? What do you think I did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Yeah, that would be insane. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm. It's fun. And I enjoy seeing the 16-bit version. I think it's executed really, really well. It feels like. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention is, we've talked about Capcom obviously over the years with the podcast, and when it comes to Japanese publishers, there are a few of them that have always maintained, in my opinion, a sense of identity. Obviously Nintendo, right? Square, like you just know their stuff. And I've always put Mega Man in that bucket for Capcom. Obviously they have Resident Evil and they have Monster Hunter and other things that have their own identities. But this, when I play this game versus, say, Castlevania or Metroid or something like that, this feels like a Capcom, it's part of, and we know Inafune's on this game as well. And so, they're still fully realizing, I think, their style, and it's just cool to me to see the evolution, back to back like this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I always enjoy when we do play, a couple games from a series, or even just to play. Sometimes we do the bonus episode where we'll play something, up to the minute or quite modern anyway. That you get a sense of, okay, this is where this game series or style of game is going. And we're sort of seeing this evolution, all at once. I mean, I looked at the original Metroid a little bit when we played Super Metroid. So if you want to go back and see that, and you can see those same sorts of things happening there, and how much more, I think we referred to it as, much more cinematic, especially the beginning of Super Metroid is, with that setting the scene of like, oh, this horrible thing happened in the space station and you've got to get out because you get all the way in and now you've got to retreat. And then the game begins proper. And this has a sort of similar intro, right? In that, I'm getting out into the streets as Mega Man and I'm going to run into, a mech riding Sigma, I guess it is, right? That's going to come out and
it's cool. You meet him
out of this really big ship, and I sort of assume I'm going to go to that ship later, like, so it's also setting up foreshadowing of like where this game's going to go.
Much better than two.
You're going to go everywhere on the Earth, and then you're going to go to space again, which you sort of did in Mega Man 2. But in a much less grounded way. And here, they're sort of presenting with all this, cinematic, sort of approach. So.
Oh shoot! Spoiler.
Spoiler.
Sigma was created by Dr. Kane.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I missed that. Okay, I missed that you said that. Okay, I didn't realize.
No,
that.
he created all the Reploids and Sigma.
Oh, all of them. I didn't realize Sigma was one of them. Okay, so
Yes,
I knew that. Okay, got it. Okay,
yeah.
Missed that. Yeah, so that's neat. That's neat that the archaeology.
Dude, read up on your lore, man.
I know. Well, I also wasn't listening closely to you, so which I often don't do. But
yeah, that's understandable.
But no, I
explain some of your choices. I know.
It's I think it's a good point about Metroid that you were just saying, because like, I guess to return to my point about Capcom, like if you think about of this era, you put Castlevania, Metroid, and Mega Man all next to each other, and you know which one's which. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in a good way. And Metroid being maybe more cinematic, Castlevania is sort of like self-serious, right? And like trying to like proportion the characters in a more realistic way. Right, so I won't say realism, but they're like maybe more naturalistic. And then Mega Man looks like anime, like it looks like a cartoon, and it's very specifically wanting to do that. And it's just neat to kind of think about the era and how in the 16-bit era how they're, and I mean, talk about indie games today, right? Like riffing off of this stuff and doing like Dead Cells or something like that, doing such a great job at being influenced by this era, but doing it in a modern sense. Like I'm so impressed by so many developers today who are spiritually influenced by this stuff, but find ways to make it modern, like Celeste, like you mentioned, or Dead Cells, Hollow Knight,
Dead Cells. I mean, they're all doing their own different, sorts of things on these games and game types. I think Dead Cells is more, as a roguelite, right?
Yeah. But I just but
the look of it for sure.
Yeah.
It's very cool to see all of that continuing to go on. Cool. Yeah, I think I guess maybe we should talk. We only touched on the movement stuff. There's more movement abilities in the chill penguin section. I guess you get the dash.
Upgrades beyond. I mean, the thing to note there for me is upgrades beyond the boss defeats, right? Like defeating a boss, that's just, you get it in the level, which is cool. That's very Metroid.
I will say one of the things I kind of wanted there was, I got that acceleration, whatever, something acceleration system, and the first place I got to really use it, where I needed to have it, was when I got in the mech. In the mech session, you can jump. You have to jump, wall jump your way out of there, but you can actually dash back to an area that you can see above you, and get onto it if you use the dash. And I'm like, oh, cool. And there was no payoff for that.
That was weird.
Disappointed.
That was a weird section. I went up there too, but
There's no heart pickup to increase your your health bar. I don't know if increasing your health bar sticks around, for one thing. I don't know if that's a level to level thing. I suspect not, but I don't actually know. Or even just like a fill this type thing. fill up your meters drops like they have at the beginning of the intro level when you drop the first bee thing, the flying bee robot. There's a place where you can drop down and pick up power-ups or
I saw that, but I couldn't. I didn't figure out how to get
if you drop down the next hole, you can get to them and wall jump back out. So it's sort of, you can drop in and climb back out. So that's a whole thing. But it's sort of like, because you've just figured that you have to do that. You have to do that when the bee drops the thing all the way down, and then there's actually, you can see to the right, there's stuff you can pick up, so you can actually drop down there and do the same thing to get out, which is cool. You can do it right away. And I was just missing that with the dash. Like, I wanted the dash to give me a similar thing.
Yeah, they didn't really, for something so significant. That's the other reason they say to play Chill Penguin first, is the dash does allow you to get to so many special places, and so you should get it right away. But for something so significant, to not train you up on it right away in some specific way, which is not like Nintendo would have done that right away.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
you wouldn't have been able to get out of the room without a dash.
yeah.
There would have been a large gap where it's like, I don't know how to get across that.
Yeah.
Oh, I have the dash, you know?
But maybe, because of their structure, which is completely different than Metroidvanias, maybe they couldn't do that because they can't guarantee you're going to pick that one. Yeah, I guess they can. They can train you in Chill Penguin. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, they
I
can
guess
do it
it's
right then, and the next sliding thing over is
they should have. Yep.
Scroll. Yeah, I was just really surprised just to have like a visual representation of like this is how many pixels you can go, you know, or how many blocks or tiles or whatever. I mean, just some sort of like this is how far you can dash across. Because I'm missing that in other levels of just knowing. Feeling the comfort like that this is safe. I end up mostly jumping most of the time. It sort of feels like you have to be able to do that, I guess. Yeah, it's sort of a weird thing where it's like, I guess the dash is for extra stuff, which I don't know. It's I don't know how I feel about that.
Supposedly it's pretty useful if you're good at it with bosses too. But yeah, it's what I ended up reading about it when I was looking at the boss order stuff is that it's mainly for secrets.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, it's not secrets, but it's like it's upgrades.
Yeah, upgrades that you can see, and you're like, how do I get
things you're going to want?
Different approach to the Metroid thing, where of course you would revisit places and and go back and like, oh, I have this new tool to look at the world, and here I guess it's the whole replay thing. It's like, well, I would start over and make sure I get the dash first. So
because you can't replay levels. So if you miss something. Right, you'd have to start the game over, I guess. Yeah.
Although I gather from email, and I don't think we're going to read one of them tonight, but that in a lot of the games you can actually go back and replay levels. So.
Oh, well, I did notice once you get it once, even if you die, you lose all your lives and have to start all over, you do still have the dash.
Oh, you start with it. Yeah,
you still have it. Yeah. So they are keeping some persistence.
As long as you beat or have a point where you can save.
Of course, yeah. But if you get a password and you've gotten it, even if you haven't beaten Chill Penguin himself, you will always have the dash ever after.
Huh.
Which is interesting.
I'm gonna look for patterns in the passwords and see if I can figure that out. Where is this? Where is this encoded? All right, let's turn to email. We're just going to do a couple tonight. We're trying to keep things short for poor Tim here. He's got such a busy life. And he's roasting his little cabana. And he wants to get back to turn on, not his air conditioning, but his evaporative cooler. Excuse me. So let's turn to email now.
I wish I had air conditioning, but yeah.
These are sent to devgameclub@gmail.com. Sir, read the two that I sent you together.
But read email 1 and 2. Yeah, okay. I have them listed out of order, but okay, 1 and then 2 together. Okay.
Yes, correct. Yeah, read them together because they're both on the same theme.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Subject: Mega Man music from Peter. Hey, gang. So you guys were playing Mega Man 2, a game I probably played through a few dozen times in the late 80s. Figured I'd catch a Let's Play video to refresh the old neurons, and oh my OMG, I don't know what. Madeline smells like, but if
going somewhere.
Okay, if Proust, that's Proust, right?
Yes.
I haven't read Proust. Proust had written about Mega Man the Mega Man intro music. I would have been a better classics student. Wow. Okay, this is a journey, Peter.
In Search of Lost Time, the surrounding story. So just to explain for people who don't know what the heck a Madeleine is. Madeleine is one of these French cookies. It's like a butter cookie sort of thing. It's soft and anyway, it's on smelling the aroma of Madeleines that Proust begins this enormous work of literature, 6 volumes of literature. It is sparked. His
spark.
His remembrance of lost time is sparked by by the smelling of this Madeleine.
Love it. Got it. So Mega Man's music is that for Peter, is what I'm saying. I'm hearing. Okay. Well, I certainly recognize many of the other big soundtracks of the 80s NES era, e.g. Super Mario, Zelda, Metroid. For some reason, Mega Man 2 really brought me back. It wasn't just the intro either. Everything from the main boss select screen to the ditty that plays when you select a boss to transitioning to the stage theme, all just perfect. I understand why modern games have expansive soundtracks with hours of music, but there's something to be said for a svelte 25-minute chiptune soundtrack that becomes intimately interwoven into the game rather than being used for mere background or mood. I realized there was no question there, so let's go with what do you guys think of the music? Cheers from Boston, Peter. Okay, so on to the related email.
Yeah, other one, and then we'll go and talk about the music.
Okay, subject Megaman! Exclamation point from our very own Ben Zaug. I'm excited to hear you two talk about Mega Man games. Exclamation point. I have played all 10 of the original series, and 5 of my and 5 is my personal favorite. I have dabbled in X, Zero, and Battle Network, but mostly just played Mega Man X and watched speedruns of the others. One interesting thing that's been different about Mega Man 2 is Metal Man's weapon is super effective, to use Pokemon terms, against multiple robot masters instead of just one boss. I believe this is the only instance of this in the entire series. I did find that odd, and I did notice that. As a fun aside, there is a band called the Megas that takes Mega Man chiptune songs and transforms them into full songs with lyrics/story appropriate to the games and instrumentation. Wow. They're one of my favorite bands, and I highly recommend giving a listen. The album Get Equipped has a lot of Mega Man 2 based songs. Thanks, Ben from Iowa Zog. That is the most brilliant idea for a band I've ever heard. Get Equipped.
Yeah.
Oh my!
It's no the Immortals, because of course it's always going to be my favorite. But that's pretty good. The Megas. Yeah, I don't know. So what do you think about the music? I will say it's super catchy. Like I have the going in my head a lot of the time, and then the
Yeah, yeah. The selection, the stage selection screen, I think is pretty. I can't sing it off the top of my head, but whenever I hear it, it definitely brings me back to Mega Man. And I think they always do riffs of that, very similar in each game. But
they're very common to be covered in OC remix, type things as well. There were tons of Mega Man remixes. So I've heard a lot of this music, having never played the games. I was like, oh, this is really catchy. And now I'm hearing it on the game, and I'm going, oh, well, this is where all that came from.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's in the stage list, but it's the dun 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 dun. Like that's. I feel like it's just in every. Well, and these games are so hard, and there's so much starting over, right?
Yeah.
Where you're just like, you're going to get to know these songs.
Yes, you are.
Yes,
you are.
Yeah.
And none of them is super long, so you're going to know. There was actually, it was funny, last week's episode, for the beginning, I actually chose a song I hadn't heard. I kind of clicked around, through various songs and tried to pick something that I thought was kind of different. And it had this... the chord progression was one of these unresolving chord progressions where it feels like it's constantly climbing. This is a famous, I forget the name of it. There's a Bach, I believe, cantata or something that does this, where it just climbs endlessly. Like you could just repeat it as, indefinitely. And so it never feels like it resolves.
Daft Punk does that. Yep.
Yeah. So that's a common thing, but it's it was happening in this thing about going to see Dr. Wily, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, that you have this repeating, unresolving musical cue in this level that's the most, that's the most filled with dread, because you're going towards the game's final boss, or at least you assume you are, I think, at that point. And you're sort of doing this weird climbing, unresolving thing, and I really like that. And a lot of the time it feels very heroic, but that was a good selection for like, oh, am I going to die here? Like, is this going to be the end of Mega Man, or Mega Man 2? I don't know. Is it the same Mega Man? Like, You're going to have to go play them all, Tim, and report back. I just don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, the fact that X is a different one, yeah. I mean, I assume Mega Man, the Mega Man's is all the same one, maybe. But so I don't know if it's 8 or 9 or 8 and 9, or maybe it's 7, 8, and 9. But the modern, I'll have to look it up. But I think the modern ones, where Capcom went back and essentially sort of rebooted, they didn't start over; they just continued.
Just kept going.
Yeah, which I think is just brilliant. It's like, oh, we're going to bring Mega Man back. Let's just start at the last number that we had.
We'll just keep going.
Yeah,
we're not just going to call it Mega Man. We're just going to go with 7. Sure, why not?
Yeah.
All right, I've got another email here, and then we'll call it a night. The subject is listening on ×2 speed considered hard mode or speed running the podcast? From Gothic Chocobo.
Oh,
hey,
Gothic.
Hey, DGC, read difficulty. So this is following up on difficulty conversations. The first Infamous had a little pop-up after the first mission that recommended which difficulty level it thought you should play at based on your performance up until that point. I discovered this because the first time that I played it, I got a prompt asking if I wanted to set the difficulty to hard. And as someone who was not used to third-person action games, my usual games are JRPGs, fighting games, and platformers, I was pleasantly surprised that it was recommending the hard difficulty option. Also, no talk about difficulty would be complete without mentioning Resident Evil 4 and its adaptive difficulty, though you've already mentioned it in a previous podcast, so I won't say any more. Just as no email from me would be complete without mentioning Pokemon or a Mark Brown video. And he has some links here. There's the Resident Evil 4 one, which we've mentioned and linked before, but we will again. He has one which is what makes Celeste's assist mode special, which I will actually check out because I'm a fan of Mark Brown. And I will also check out this one, Game Maker's Toolkit Video Game Accessibility Playlist. It says it's a playlist, so I assume it's several videos where he's talking about these sorts of things. So we will put those in the show notes. Many thanks, Gothic Chocobo. P.S. Did you work out how to buy the Dark Souls DLC on PS3? Sony shut down the ability to add funds via the PS3 and Vita stores, so you have to do it through the PS4, PS5, or the web store to then buy things from the PS3 store. So yes, I did work that out. I tried to do it via my phone where I have the PlayStation app, but I think my phone app.
Whoa.
There's a long thing about my phone, which we don't need to go into, but the phone is the way I like it. It's just several OS versions back and nothing updates anymore. That's fine because it's the way I like it. I don't want the phone to change anymore. Anyway.
Oh my God, you old man.
I'm fighting the power. These constant upgrades. It's ridiculous. Because most of them just burn through battery faster. Anyway, point is, I did work out how to do it. I have to do it on my PS4, and I have not gotten around to do it because I moved on to Dark Souls 2 and am now playing Dark Souls 3, where I am, I believe, 154 hours in.
Oh, man.
Something along those lines.
Can't wait till you start Elden Ring.
Yeah, that's a ways off because I can only keep this up for so long because I'm definitely feeling some carpal tunnel. It's time to take a break. This week is going to be not much. I won't say no. I'll say not much Dark Souls this week.
Well, you got to get back to Kingdom Hearts, so
that's true. That's true. Once I'm through Elden Ring, I guess I'll get back to Kingdom Hearts. I don't know. I definitely hit a wall.
Can you hear me rolling my eyes over the?
Yeah, I can't hear it over your evaporative cooler.
It's not on yet.
And yet I hear it still. It echoes in my heart. Anyway, thank you for sending those to devgameclub@gmail.com.
Quick, I have when you're done, let me. Well, yeah, I wanted to go back to the music thing. I forgot to mention one thing that, to Peter's point. Sorry to go backwards, but to Peter's point, the fact that we've talked about this before, but because of the chiptune constraints, the fact that the music had to be that much more memorable versus his point about modern soundtracks, which have the luxury of being more, I don't know, lush and epic and kind of go more places. I'm almost like, as he was writing that, I was almost thinking like maybe every soundtrack, even modern ones today, need to start with chiptune. So you have to distill it to its core, and then you take that and orchestrate it out to modern. I think that would be a funny, weird way to develop a soundtrack for a modern game.
Well, while I agree that constraints are good, I'm not sure that constraint necessarily leads to something being more memorable. Like, I don't know. One of the things that's interesting is seeing long running or hearing long running series like the Mario for Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
The orchestrations of the music are amazing. So they did start with chiptunes and really went places with them. But I don't know, like, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that it's like, I don't know how much more stuff there is to plumb there. Like, I don't know.
Well, I'm coming from the reason I'll elaborate. The reason I'm coming from that direction, or the reason I'm mentioning this, is coming from the direction of working on games and not being a musician, and as we've talked about, like not even having the right vocabulary per se. I do work with audio directors who we're and composers where we are trying to create a brand new, fresh theme for something, right?
Yeah.
That's catchy and sticky and memorable from scratch. Right, even within a franchise like whatever Halo or Tomb Raider or something, it's like those are really hard. And when you have like all of the orchestration options at your disposal, it's sort of like overwhelming, right? To like try to zero in on something. And I was just sort of like narrow the scope, so you have to actually think about like the basic, the basics of it. So that's just a tiny anecdote of what I mean by that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I'm going to push back. Like, I think that you can sort of think melodically about, about Halo, right? It's not very complicated. It's not, there's not a lot going on there. Or even the singing part, I guess, that's a little bit more complicated, but it's also based on, what is the name of that scale? Okay, I'm not going to know, but it's basically jumping around this particular scale, I believe. I'd have to kind of write it out, but anyway, my point is like, they're not.
I know what you're saying, but
you can be simple,
yeah,
and then
totally.
What really makes those things, work, what really makes those, as it were, sing, is that they made the choice to make the haunting, like driving cello sounds, for example, of the da 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 da, or the hauntingness of choosing the singers, the monks, the chant style monks.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah, those are good examples. However, I guess my point is those are rare examples, right? Like we're in hindsight 2020, those are ones that hit.
Mushy and
but the ones you don't remember, like for instance, like you don't know, the Destiny soundtrack is not memorable to you at this moment, right?
No, I was thinking like I've played I don't know how many hours of Assassin's Creed.
Can't think of a theme.
No idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Not at all.
That's my point, right?
Nothing.
We can look back and say, "Oh, Halo hit," but it did hit. And I'm not saying that it's not that Marty and team are not talented, but they did nail something, and then repeating that is very difficult, kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's more of a thought exercise, but not reality. But yeah. Anyway, sorry to go backwards in email.
No, that's fine. I mean, I do think, it's easy to be like, oh, we have an orchestra. Let's make this big, this big thing, I think if you spend a lot of time in any game, like the music will get burned in. But that said, like, can't remember any bassy music, so that's maybe not true.
That's a really good example.
Yeah.
The franchise that big that doesn't have the theme that people can hum is wacky to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, possibly it does, honestly, but I just it's not coming to me. So for my part, I guess it doesn't. So anyway, thanks for sending those along to devgameclub@gmail.com. We, of course, love to read those and reply to them on air. And I reply to others that are not, just people getting in touch as well. So if you get an email back, it's probably from me. It's certainly for me. We also love your reviews, and thanks for sending those along. We haven't had one in a while, singing or no, and we always look forward to them. He says, checking to see, did we actually have one? And I didn't check, but we didn't last week, so I'm mean, I guess we did this week either, and I am correct. Okay. You can find us on the web at devgameclub.com or on Twitter at devgameclub, where you can also find my co-host at
Tim Longo Jr. with the JR at the end.
He is also a man who twitches, although he's taking a few weeks off because he's got too much going on. And B, he's going to be traveling a little bit. So you're a little bit too busy to return to Dark Souls, which is to say they've kicked your butt a lot and you need a break.
Yeah, I need Solaire, so I'm gonna have to spend some off air time or off stream time. Getting ready for that.
I get you. I mean, when it comes to needing Solaire, I can only say, who doesn't?
Yeah.
Our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton. Now, there's a man who can write a catchy tune. Commissioned by friend of the cast, Aaron Evers, and our logo, of course, is by Mark Garcia. Have fun being the first of a new generation of robots this week, and good night.
Good night.